And a very good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Thanksgiving week's edition of Issues and Attitudes. My name is Jeff Owens, General Manager of WEIU TV and Radio. And joining me today is Mr. Alex Benishek, the City of Mattoon's Community Development and Planning Director, making a return appearance. Welcome, Alex.
Hey, thrilled to be here, Jeff.
We're going to have you scoot up a little bit to that mic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, before we do it, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I just got engaged on Halloween, so my fiance Jamie, EIU professor here, we're just really thrilled and excited for the future.
That's cool. My wife's name's Jamie too, so we were talking about that. So yeah, we can't mess that one up. Let's talk a little bit before we get into some details of people who don't know what a community development and planning director does for the city of Mattoon. Go ahead and talk about that just for a second.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So it's really kind of like jack of all trades, master of none, but they leave out the bit where it's like, but better than a master of one. You know?
Yeah.
But no, so it's really anything from like planning, development, helping out with code enforcement, permitting, things like that, zoning applications. But then it gets into, how do you revitalize the community? So, blighted property demolitions, helping out with downtown events like Celebrate Mattoon and things like that. It's really just kind of whatever needs to be done. I'm trying to help. So.
There you go. And the thing that you really want to talk about today, and we got a lot of stuff to talk about, but it's really the housing situation in Mattoon and the demolition thing that you guys are doing over there. So can you just talk about that and maybe the process of how it all started?
Yeah, absolutely. So, we've really taken a very aggressive approach towards blighted properties in Mattoon. Since 2024, we've demolished about 29 problem properties throughout the community. And my personal goal is to try to change that to be like 30 per year, either, demolitions, rehabs, new builds, things like that. Just a personal goal. And so that process, it's really kind of like you'll have like an out-of-state owner purchase a building or somebody who purchases on a tax sale, right? And so, then it just sits there because it's somebody who's not in our community, who's not really invested in the property. And so, the main thing that we try to do is, try and get them into compliance. And then if that becomes an issue where, they're not responding to certified mail, things like that, we elevate it to the next step using something called the fast track demolition process. And that's only for properties that are, a continuing hazard for the community. So, hole in the roof, people breaking in all the time, stuff like that. And we've been able to do, like I mentioned, 29 since 2024, and we have a lot more to come. But there's also some really positive, outside of demolitions, like land banking work we're doing through an intergovernmental agreement with a group called the Central Illinois Land Bank Authority. And that's really changed the game for how we can address these blighted properties. Because remember, when you take down a house, you now have a reduced tax rate that's going to the taxing bodies, right?
Yeah.
And so we want to avoid that wherever we can. If a house can be saved, we want to get it to the land bank and get it rehabbed. And that's exactly what we did at 1816 Grant Avenue in Mattoon. It was a house that had a lot of, folks going in and out, drug use, things like that. Just a very unfortunate situation. The owner of the property had passed away, 2 years of unpaid taxes, and so the land bank on behalf of Mattoon was able to step in, and we acquired the property after cleanup and legal fees for $11,500. And what that turned into was, we sold it for that amount. We're not trying to make a profit, because typically you'd have like, maybe the highest bidder maybe isn't the best end user. And so our concern wasn't about money. It's about, hey, who's the best end user for this property? And it ended up through a competitive process being somebody who lived right across the street.
That's awesome.
And he rehabbed it. It looks phenomenal right now. We have some cool before and after pictures we kind of shared. And now it's actually on the market. So if you want to have a expertly remodeled house at 1816 Grant Avenue, please check your local realtors and things like that and get involved there.
The one thing I wanted to ask you about these house demos and rehabs are like, so when does the city of Mattoon go out and look for them, or do citizens bring in attention like, hey, House on Richmond looks terrible. What's the plan for it? How's that work?
All of the above.
Okay.
Absolutely. So we actually partnered with the Illinois Housing Development Authority back in 2024, and we surveyed literally every single parcel of housing in the city of Mattoon. So we have data for that, but we also know things change over time. So just the other day, actually, Ryan Hurst and I, Deputy Police Chief, we drove all the way up and down a couple of streets in town and just took notes. And I think we came up with like 45 properties that we're going to be able to address collectively between our two departments. And it's like collaboration like that that really gets stuff done. But of course, yeah, we have people call in and we address those concerns as quickly as we're able to.
I didn't know if there's an application process if somebody wanted something rehab that they owned, or is that a possibility too?
So one of the things we're looking at is potentially a facade program. I did have a donor that was interested for something for that in town, and so just trying to pair that with like a state grant like the HRAP grants through IDA and other things. Those are things we look at, and there's many other communities that have done that very successfully that are great models, like the city of Marion and the city of Macomb. Marion, I might have my numbers a little bit off here, but they invested like $250,000 in a TIF district, and then it led to $600,000 of investment on facade repairs, and they were doing like grants. They'll pay 75% up to $7,500 for a repair, and then some of the other incentives like that map up there. That's our TIF district. So there's a chance that if that goes through, we could spur some housing development, facade program for areas that have potential need for right-of-way improvements and stuff like that.
And what, I guess that was what I was going to ask you next. The real reason that behind this is we need housing in Mattoon, right?
Yeah.
We're kind of almost landlocked where we can't really expand too much. So we really need to make sure that the infrastructure and the houses that need rehabbed are rehabbed over the next few years if we're going to meet the demand of everything that's happening in town. Correct or not correct?
Oh, absolutely, 100%. And I think from my perspective as a planner, like the best way to do that is with infill development, getting the properties that are no longer productive back to productive use, because they already have roads, water, sewer, gas, electric, all that, which is very expensive if you're going to put that in at a brand new subdivision. And so we kind of need all of the above, though, because some folks do value that new development feel. And so it's just balancing all of those things, and tools like Enterprise Zone and TIF make that possible. Rhonda over at Coles Together is doing a great job with the Enterprise Zone, and sometime in January we should have an updated housing incentive in both Mattoon and Charleston, and a couple of other areas of Coles County as well that have a new incentive for housing, which on specific parcels it would be and nothing's set in stone yet, but it's looking like 5 years of property tax abatement and one exemption basically on the sales tax of building materials for new construction. So that adds up to real savings.
Is there an apartment or some kind of housing development near Emerald Acres that's on the schedule or plan? I've heard a little bit about that. I don't know that many details of it. It wasn't really on my scheduled questions, but it just came to my mind when you were asking.
Yeah, I mean, there's been some talks with some folks. I can't really dive too much into it, but there has been some talks about some land out there. And then there's also a couple of potential housing developments that might be happening on the south side of town. I could think of 4 that come to mind, but again, for confidentiality, I can't really dive in more than that.
The one of the things I did want to talk about is you said since we're sitting here in late of fall of 25, and since 24 you've done 29. But your goal now, as you look forward to, let's just say 26, 27, 28, you're really wanting to do 30 each year, is what you said?
Yeah, that's my personal goal, just to try to get that up. Yeah.
So how does that happen? What has to happen for that? What has to be done for that to happen?
So really, I think it's just going through the data that we have and specifically blocking out times to address those things. There's a lot of different moving pieces when it comes to community development. And so I think it's just, we have this data and we need to put it to work. And so, one of the things that Ryan and I did, like I mentioned, was go down a specific street.
Yeah.
And so I think the approach that we should take, at least from a structural property problem, identification standpoint, is to, sort of do it in phases, get the main arteries of town first, get those identified, noticed up in court, or through the fast track demolition process. But really just using the data we have, I think, is the first step. And then from there, it's organizing it into, something that's proactive instead of reactionary.
Would it be easier to do, like, I want to say a whole neighborhood, but like there's 3 or 4 houses in a neighborhood that all need rehab, to get the people there and like do it all there, so the equipment and all that stuff is there? Is that the way?
Yeah, and we're actually doing that. You'll see, if you go on 33rd and DeWitt, we have now acquired a lot of properties through the land bank there. That were, dilapidated and kind of out of, compliance in terms of paying taxes, things like that. And so the land bank was able to step in, and we're going to have a really awesome before and after photo for that area.
That's cool. The other thing that I didn't know anything about until today is this stuff called Momentum Park, which is, I'm just going to let you talk about it and what possibly might happen with Momentum Park and what's fairly cool for bicyclists.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's just kind of like a placeholder name for now. But we'll call it whatever you want. It's essentially 3 separate sites. And this was essentially a brainchild of the Mattoon Bike Committee, our bike study that was commissioned in 2019. And also, I got to give huge kudos to Tom Wright, former Rural King pilot. I mean, he really had the vision for something like this. And we've been working with Jamie Pilson, Kurt Stretch, a couple other people to get all the pieces together for this. But this is a pump track. So if you're not familiar with what a pump track is, it's basically like a skate park for bicycles. So instead of pedaling, the asphalt or the concrete there is almost like a wave. And you pedal initially to get the momentum going, but then you use your arms to physically pump. And that generates momentum to bring you around the whole track. And so this area is separated into 3 separate sites. You have Site A, which would be a national, like, Red Bull competition scale pump track that would be right behind the Cross County Mall, kind of to the west of that pond there. And then you'd have a mountain biking skills course, which is to the north of the bike trail behind the mall. And then the one that's most likely going to be developed first is Site C, which is a beginner and youth pump track. And we've actually applied for a OSLAD grant to try to make that happen. And so we're just really thrilled that, we have that vision and opportunity because, quality of life as an economic development strategy is, what I try to bring here every single day. It's getting harder and harder to, have the incentives to bring factories and things like that here. But I think back to like the Ball Corporation.
Yeah, you were talking
like
about this.
Yeah, like the Mason jars, they used to be located in Indiana, but they've now moved their headquarters to Colorado because that's where all their corporate executives were living. So they were like, why are we paying for flights to do this? Let's just go there. And so, I want that to happen for Mattoon here, where it's like, hey, we're able to attract things here because, the people who live here love to live here, and the people who live here have an awesome quality of life. And so that's something that we try to put into our work every single day is how can we better our community? And, and it's not just Mattoon. Like Charleston does a phenomenal job with outdoor spaces, quality of life, things like that. And so, anything we do as a region collectively in Coles County is going to be awesome.
Well, I think it's a great matchup when you think of bikes and running, and Charleston's really kind of is hanging their hat on. And if Mattoon does that well, and again, it gets people to come and experience the whole county for a longer stay is the best thing is the best case scenario. Yeah. When you think about like the Momentum Park or whatever you're going to end up calling it, is there? I know it's still in the grant phase, but is there a timeline of like you think maybe if the grant goes through and everything happens like 2-3 years down the road or a quicker time?
So when the grant goes through, we'd have 2 years to finish it.
Okay,
and that would just be for Site C. But we're hoping that I think it would take like 8 months to complete because it's a little smaller.
Yeah.
And so once we get the momentum,
name,
from
right?
that going. fun. We're really hoping that kind of catches on so that we can work on some broader fundraising efforts for just Site A alone. It's like the largest one. It's estimated to be like a $1.7 million project. Then Site B is around $600,000, and Site C, which is the one we applied for the grant, was about $800,000 or so.
It's almost $4 million total, right?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
just rough math.
But again, this isn't necessarily a city sponsored project. This is more so like the input from the bike study, and then input from Mattoon in Motion and other groups. And so, like no city funding really has been utilized towards that project outside of a little bit for design.
When you talk to people about revitalizing neighborhoods, is it a tough talk? Because maybe people think that they're happy with their neighborhood, or how's are those conversations that are a little difficult or not?
It depends, I guess, like what the condition of that person's property is. So like I would say 9 times out of 10, we get pretty positive responses whenever we're showing up somewhere. Like if you look at some of the city's Facebook posts and things like that, you'll see that demolitions tend to be at the top of that list. Like 250 likes, 20 shares. And it's neat to see that. But when it comes to talking about like from members of the community, it's also like what do they want to see too? Because like we can't just show up and say like, oh, we have all the answers. So it's really more so like I think our issue is like how do we start broader conversations, and how do we have those conversations? Where are the right spaces to have them? That's not like stuffy City Hall. Because like that can be intimidating.
Yeah,
like I've even stood at that dais before I worked for the city as Mattoon in Motion, and like I'm shaking the whole time, So like you got to meet people where they are and try to make them comfortable. But I would say 9 times out of 10 people are thrilled that we're doing the work we're doing, and then that 1 time out of 10, you got to meet people where they are and just say, hey, we're doing this for the betterment of the community, and I understand, especially like if it's their property that we unfortunately had to tear down or something, like yes, you have private property rights, but your neighbors around you that are being affected by your property have a right to enjoy their properties as well. And so just balancing that and, having empathy where you can is huge. I always try to give people 2 benefits of the doubt,
Now, do you work with landlord associations or major realtors to work when you're doing some of the demolition or rehab neighborhoods or anything like that?
Not directly. I mean, we presented to the Coles County Landlord Association a few times about some of the stuff we're working on, and they have great questions all the time. Dean Willard and Sandy Graven, are both kind of the leaders of that group, and they do a great job just educating their membership and things like that. But I'd say like when we're doing our comprehensive plan, we're going to do a 2026 comp plan next year. We definitely want to get them involved in that process to make sure that they're consulted.
Now, here's something. We're going to switch gears to Christmas because I didn't realize this until today either. I guess I should pay more attention. An ice skating rink is going to be available on December 5th when we downtown Mattoon Christmas. Talk about that.
Yeah, so the Celebrate Downtown Mattoon Committee, we do the Trunk or Treat and Celebrate Christmas events each year. So yeah, December 5th and 6th, we're going to have an ice skating rink downtown. So for the Christmas parade on the 5th, that's 5 to 8 p.m., we're going to have an ice skating rink. It's kind of in that parking lot that's between like U.S. Bank and Burger King, but it's owned by First Mid, that kind of thing. It's out there on the First Mid side of that, and it's a 40 by 50 ice skating rink, so pretty sizable, looks really cool. And, this would not happen without the support of our sponsors. Like it costs around, like $25,000 every year just to host the event by itself. We don't have any paid staff. It's all the community that helps make this happen. Yeah. And so, we do want to give a huge shout out to Earthrise Energy and KC Summers, 2 separate sponsors that help make this specific thing happen. And on December 6th from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. So that's the Saturday after. The ice skating rink will still be there for folks that maybe aren't able to make it the first night because they're too busy watching the cool parade.
So, I guess my question is like, is there companies that sell ice skating rinks? Should we create our own, or how do you do that? I mean, and do you have to pray that it's cold? I mean,
no. So this is actually completely synthetic.
Okay.
So there's no water, there's
Okay.
no ice. It's just you get skates there, and basically it's like a very like slick plastic surface. The last time I went ice skating, I broke my wrist, so not sure
Sorry,
if
I
I'm
shouldn't
going to be
laugh.
doing that. But so, and as a native Floridian, I don't really have a ton of experience with that. But I would say that it's like a plastic material. We're working with Artificial Ice Events, who have been really cool to work with so far. And, we're just thrilled to be able to bring this to downtown Mattoon, and just huge shout out to everybody that's involved with Celebrate Downtown Mattoon. I mean, you guys make this stuff possible, and there's just a ton of things going on downtown.
We're talking today to Alex Benishek, the City of Mattoon Community Development and Planning Director, about everything that's going on in Mattoon. Housing is the big topic. So when you talked about there's a few people that are looking at maybe developing and building. What about like home builders? Are there new homes still going up in the area? Or
Yeah.
Okay. I
Yeah.
mean, what's the status of those, and how affordable they are to where the status of most people are in the Mattoon Charleston area?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm thrilled you asked that question, and I'm very disappointed I did not send you a different picture for something. So Todd Fuller did a phenomenal job on Commercial Avenue. He built 4 tiny homes, him and his wife, after they went to our Ida Town Hall in 2024. And so he built 4 brand new tiny homes. I think they're around like 800 square feet, something like that. And they're selling for around $115,000, which in 2025, like that's phenomenal for a brand new house. You go inside, I mean, it's small, but it's very open because he built them taller than a regular house. There's a loft space. So you really feel like you have more space than what you would think in there. And I believe he sold 3 out of the 4.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, that's going well. Bart Owen, he's building a bunch of houses on kind of out by Brookstone, Old State Road area. And, one of them's already up. It looks phenomenal. So he's building quite a few there. And, we're really just trying to, make that possible. We've relaxed some zoning restrictions, things like that, just to make it easier. And yeah, I hope that answered your question.
No, I think so. Yeah, because I mean, it's just curious to know that it's going up, because sometimes you live in a town, but you don't always see what's going up, because you work and kids and all the other stuff. So it's nice to get that insight from there. How do you prioritize all the different things that are going on with Mattoon right now? It's unbelievable. The just the last 3 years, what's popped up. How do you prioritize it so you kind of keep on track of it, and as well as plan forward?
Yeah, a notebook. Yeah. But really, it's just like, I think it's the Pareto principle. I probably said that wrong. It's like 20% of your actions produce, 80% of your outcomes. And so, that's some of the things that we try to do, is just focus on like, what is the most intentional action we can do that's going to have the broadest results. And so, I could, maybe respond to an email quicker or something. And I know I'm kind of nefarious for that, not doing it quick enough. But, I think it's more important to make sure you're getting your grant in on time and, things like that. And we have a new grant writer who's doing a great job. But I think, where the priorities come, I mean, we're about to do a council retreat with City Council. That's going to be really exciting. And they're going to be able to, really set those priorities for the city manager, who's doing a great job, Kyle Gill, and then he's going to set those priorities for city staff.
Okay. And Kyle and Rick Hall are coming in either next Monday or the Monday after. I apologize, I can't remember. I know it's one of the next 2 Mondays for sure. So we'll go from there and we'll talk to them a little bit more about details about that. Then how do you deal with, like, let's say that something's going on with a demo or a house. How do you deal with a last minute change that, then all of a sudden you have to just switch gears immediately?
Yeah,
What's the Alex Benishek style of that?
So I'd really say, like, we had an example of that, and I don't want to go too into detail there.
I like the detail though.
But yeah, I mean, we had one where we were ready to go demolish the house, and then ownership changed like 2 days before the thing showed up to demolish it. And so you can't do that if there's a new owner involved. You have to start all over and everything. thing. And so, if something pops up, you got to deal with it the second it does, because, if I wouldn't have followed up or anything like that, then we would have, demolished a property where, you hadn't notified that final brand new owner that you just learned about the day before. And so, we pivoted, we worked with the owner, and we were the new owner, and we were actually able to get them to demolish without city investment. And so, that was a really positive win for the city, because there wasn't a governmental, subsidy there for that demolition. So I'd really say just like you got to figure out, and I've learned this from Kyle too, it's just like any action you do, it has to be a win-win for everyone. It can't just be one-sided. Every single thing you do has to, as best you can, be the best outcome for all parties involved.
You obviously are not from around here. You've come here. Have you learned really now that this is, you call it like your home area, and you're really committed to the future, of Mattoon, Charleston?
Oh yeah, I love Coles County. I easily have a better quality of life here than I did in a large metropolitan area in Florida. It's just really cool. Like I know my neighbors, I know people in the community, and, like we all care about each other, and we come together for common purposes. It's like awesome. Like I go buy my cat food at Bernie's and, De Beers, and Bernie's like, hey, how's it going? And, we're there talking for like 20 minutes. It's like awesome. Yep. And, just the people here are, I would say, a lot kinder than those in Florida. I think the heat gets people a little angry.
Riled up. Yeah.
But, at the end of the day, I'm really just humbled by, how welcomed I've been coming here as an outsider. And, I really felt that, Mattoon specifically for me is the right place and is where I should be.
How do you measure success with the projects that you oversee and work on with all the different collaborative efforts you make?
I'd really say, like, have we served others? Was it a win-win for everybody? I think that's one of the keys to measuring success. It's also like, are you getting input from other people, or are you just doing it, yourself? Like, how many people are involved? Are you collaborating? For me, it's does a project have community input? Is it being guided in the right direction based upon that input? That's kind of how I would measure it, is like, has the community been involved in this or not? And I would say in a lot of the things that we do in terms of economic development, I mean, man, we raised nearly, I think the mayor was saying it was $12 million for the sports complex, things like that, just through local donations. And so, I think like a very community-oriented project like that is a shining example of, how we can measure our progress, because you physically see that building get constructed. Yeah. You have specific timelines, and at the end of the day, that's going to be something that really benefits our community.
We have about a minute left today with Alex Benishek. We didn't mention Lightworks. I don't want Angelia mad at us. So Lightworks is going on at the park right now.
Absolutely.
So that'll go through, I believe, December 28th this year. So that's kind of cool. Any other things that you, in this last minute, that we didn't get to that you want to talk about from your point of view, from what's going on in the city of Mattoon?
No, not offhand. I'd really just say, thank you, sponsors of Celebrate Downtown Mattoon and our Trunk or Treat and Celebrate Christmas events, and we'll see you out on the rink.
What do you want for Christmas? What is your wife-to-be going to get you for what Christmas?
That's a good question. I'm going to have to ask her later. I would say for Christmas, I would really like to be able to find, like, just an adoption specifically for a cat that we're fostering right now. Her name is Mika. She's very talkative, very sweet. Realizing now I should have brought pictures for that.
Yeah, you should have, yeah.
But yeah, just hopefully get her a great home.
There you go. Well, hey, thanks for coming in. Have a great Thanksgiving and holiday season, Alex. Always good when you come by.
Same here, Jeff.
We are WEIU.